Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 123 of the Sports Daily College Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Vowles. I've got Mike Kumar with me. And, Mike, we've got a bunch of headlines to get to in the college basketball world. The viewers can see the thumbnail. We've got Peter Suter, Darius Acuff, and Mick Cronin on there. Just a little preview of what's coming ahead. Mike, let's start out on the West Coast with Mick Cronin and UCLA. They pick off their biggest win of the season, beating Purdue
Big win.
69-67.
Big
But
win.
that's not why we're talking about them. We probably would have gotten to them at some point. But we're talking about them because of the comments that their coach made after the game. He is not one to shy away from a quote, certainly not. And he decided to make his team's biggest win of the season all about how they are so hard done by. They've started with five out of the first 7 Big Ten games on the road, and that just absolutely whining to the Big Ten. We know the Statue of Liberty quote from last year, which was just not true, by the way. And Mick Cronin has found a way to make this like not a good week for UCLA basketball because he's making a fool out of himself.
Yeah, maybe he should just talk to his athletic director about moving conferences. I don't really know what he should be expecting when most of the Big Ten is at least halfway across the country, if not all the way across the country. So I see what the Big Ten's done with their schedule, and it actually does make sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've played a lot of road games so far this year, but the reason they're doing it is because they're doing it in bunches, right? So that UCLA doesn't have to go travel all the way back to California, to go all the way back out to Wisconsin, to then go and play, go and play Iowa, right? They played Wisconsin and Iowa back-to-back games,
Yeah,
which makes sense
it's
because,
typically been blocks of 2 for them and then the
yeah,
Pacific Northwest teams. Yeah.
which makes sense because it means less travel and probably more time to pay attention in school and more time, getting reps on the court on walkthroughs for UCLA doing it that way. They did the same thing with Penn State and Ohio State, two schools that, are relatively pretty close together. That's pretty easy for them. And they're going to have 2 home games. They'll go play Oregon, and then they'll have 3 straight games at home, which is beneficial to a California school when you have to travel halfway or entirely across the country for most of your road games in conference. So I think Mick Cronin just needs to take it up with the athletic director. If he doesn't want to be in the Big Ten, well, yeah, I mean, they could go join the Pac-12. They'd play less talent. They'd make less money as a school. Or if he doesn't want to do that, I mean, he can just go find somewhere else to coach. I don't really know what to tell him. Clearly, great win. He's doing a good job this year at UCLA. I know they're still not necessarily hitting the expectations yet at the start of the year, but I don't know, man. Like, grow up.
Yeah. It seems like he realized after they won that maybe a few more people were going to be watching the press conference than normal. And maybe not, though, because it was a 10 p.m. Eastern time game, so I did not make it to the end of this game. But I think he just, like, maybe felt the spotlight and said, maybe I'm going to make it about me. Like, he's done this before. Like, the schedule is the schedule, like you said, Mike. Like, this is not football. You're not playing 5 road games, you're playing 10.
Yeah.
And, it just made me think, like, how much he would hate being the Hawaii coach. Like, they have,
Yeah.
like, 8 trips to California every year, and that's further than, that's essentially UCLA going to New Jersey to play Rutgers. But
Yeah.
what a weird situation to go into. I mean, they just scream like 7 seed to me. Donovan Dent is really good. You've got a couple of other good players in your starting lineup, but you don't have much depth. The travel is a factor. You're probably not going to win a ton of road games. You've beaten
Yeah.
um, you've beaten Penn State and then Washington on the road. So, like, if they can get to 3 or 4 road wins, then they're going to be over 500 in the Big Ten, and then
Yeah.
they're going to be comfortably off the bubble. But it's just like maybe Mick Cronin is one of those coaches that it might not really matter who's on the roster. It's going to look the same. It's not going to be pretty, but they're going to get enough wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's done a good job so far this year. And had a huge win against Purdue. That's a signature
Yeah.
win if I've ever seen one for Northwestern, or excuse me, for UCLA, it's a big one. They've got Northwestern next at home. Um, but at the same time, right, like nobody's forcing UCLA to be in the Big Ten
Yeah.
except for UCLA, right? If Mick Cronin didn't want to play this sort of schedule, he should have told the administration before they decided to go to the Big Ten because this isn't the Big Ten's fault with scheduling. With that being said, it is really tough. Like I don't know
Yeah.
if we'll ever see UCLA, USC, Washington, or Oregon ever win a regular season Big Ten championship in basketball because there's so much travel during the course of the season. It's really hard to find a way to do that game in and game out when you got to go travel out to Illinois and Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania. It's a tough thing to do.
And
Um,
when teams come to you that they're doing the LA double or the
yeah,
Pacific
that's a
Northwest
huge
double,
advantage. That's
like
true.
I think Purdue honestly should have won this basketball game. They just you had two Braden Smith turnovers late and then a wide open pick and pop three. It's just like, wait, Purdue. I did watch this back. I didn't watch it live, like I said, but I obviously knew what happened while I was watching. I'm like, man, like Purdue really kind of gave one away here, and good on
Yeah,
UCLA for taking it because the bubble this year looks really crowded. Like somebody could be a 6 seed on a projection in February 20th, and then they lose two games to end the year, and then lose in the first round of the conference tournament. All of a sudden, bubble. Like it's really crowded in there. There's not a lot of, you know, bad losses or super big wins, but they're able to get that second column there. So good on UCLA. They're 13-6, 5-3, and after taking care of Purdue at home. All right, the next story we're going to get to, Mike, here is the number 25 Miami, Ohio Redhawks, I believe.
yep. Red Hawks
And
used to be something else.
they're 20-0, 8-0 in the MAC. They are continuing to win in improbable ways. Peter Suter is a walking triple double, nearly gets one here against Kent State, 27-10 and 8. This is now back-to-back overtime wins for Miami, Ohio. They hit a three with 2 seconds left to force overtime against Buffalo. Always foul up three. Don't think the Buffalo coach is going to be forgetting that. And then they
Nope.
hit clutch shots down the stretch against Kent State here to get this to overtime, and they take care of business here. Do you think that there's obviously there is, but how much magic do you think is in there for Miami, Ohio?
I think the jury's still out. Look, you look at going 20-0, winning 20 straight games in any sport, regardless of competition, is impressive. And should be talked about. Look, do they have any Power Four, Power Five wins? No. I don't even like. Do they have a quad one win? I don't
No, not even
think they
close.
do.
They actually
Yeah,
don't. They only have two quad twos.
yeah. Case in point, right? But regardless, it's impressive to win as many games as they have. Um, Now, some teams hit a lull in the middle of the season, and they're only winning by a few points. They're barely winning by the skin of their teeth. But if this is that lull in the schedule for Miami, then look out because this team could go far if this is that lull part of the schedule. You look at the games before this in conference play. Most of them weren't all that close. They came off a 39-point victory against Central Michigan. They beat Toledo by 14. They had a comfortable 11-point win against Western Michigan. They had a 10-point win against Bowling Green, where they were winning the whole way. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. We still haven't seen them play like good talent. But the one thing that jumps off the page to me right now is that they in this overtime game against Kent State they got the dub. They had three players playing 40 minutes and one playing 38. So this clearly isn't a super deep team. They really can kind of get away with playing 7 to 8 guys for a majority of the game. Maybe, Tyler Robbins comes in for a couple minutes here and there. But still some incredible talent. Peter Suter is doing big things right now. The senior guard, he's playing his best basketball, averaging 14.1 points a game, getting 4 rebounds and 4 assists to go along with it. So he's putting the team on his back. They're doing a great job. Nobody saw this one coming, but jury's out if we're going to be able to see this continue. Sure would be fun if we did, though.
And the question does go to where their at-large status is, and I think it's really not in a good spot, like at all. Their non-conference schedule was so bad. Their best
Yeah,
non-conference opponent was Wright State at 114, And they did play them on the road. They did beat them by 7, but like you go through 241, 338, 279, 274, 302, 356, 238, 261. I mean, these are all in the depths of quad 4. So, Mike, I do think that Miami might need to win the MAC still to get through to the NCAA tournament. Now, they Akron is their biggest competition. Akron's actually ranked higher than them in Ken Palm and Torvik and everything, but they did beat them at home. It is the only matchup of the regular season. I think there's a world where if they go undefeated until the championship game and they lose to Akron, then maybe they're in. But they are probably going to have to go until the conference tournament to even be considered. They're really fun to watch. The MAC has a Friday night slot, I believe. It doesn't look like many of their games are on Friday, but maybe they'll flex that. But I've watched parts of their last 2 games, and they're incredibly fun to watch. Offensively, they're just really good. Yeah, they've had games where they've made a ton of shots, but they make shots because they are open and their stuff works.
Well, Suter's field goal percentage. Keep in mind, this is a point guard. This isn't just like a center that's lobbing layups up. Suter's averaging 57% field goal percentage. That's
and
really good
and
on the
he
season.
and if you look, I've got the Torvik page up here, Mike. Every single game, they have been over 500, over 50% from 2 since the Ball State game at the end of December. And that is the only time this year that they were less than 50% from 2, which is obviously a pretty, big, especially at the mid-major level. It's a really big barometer of how good you are. You see a ton of games where they went 20 of 30 from 3 against D2 Milligan. And even in their bad games, against Western Michigan, they go 6 for 26 from 3. They still score 87 points on 74 possessions. Yeah. So they're really good offensively. Now, they haven't played anywhere near the competition defensively that they're going to see in the NCAA tournament, but they're really fun to watch. If you happen to catch them on TV, maybe, give it a second because it's fun. Travis Steele, the former Xavier coach, has them playing hard. And it's not like a lot of these players have been here for a little bit too, Mike. I think Suter started somewhere else.
Bellarmine.
Yeah. But it's his
Yeah.
second year at Miami, Ohio. And then Woolfolk is the Rutgers transfer. You have Ipsaro, who is a third-year Miami, Ohio guy. You have Byers, who is a second-year Miami, Ohio guy. Like, this is the formula for a team that wins in March in the mid-major age. It's a bunch of players who played together for a couple of years, and they get hot. Now, they have to get there first, but...
Yeah, and look, realistically, if they're a 2-loss at-large team, I think the NCAA is going to have a hard time not putting them in the tournament.
So you're
2
saying
losses.
1 loss before the conference tournament and then ultimately
Correct.
another one? It depends. When is the MAC tournament late?
It's a late tournament.
I feel like it is late. So that helps their case, right? Because the committee can, only watch so many games. But it's something to monitor going forward that they will probably be going for style points here, especially now that they've had a couple close calls. Like
they have to. Yeah.
You're at 73 right now in Torvik. Let me check the net real quick, but that is something that's going to matter. Like they probably need to get up into the 50s to be considered as an at-large team. And like, for example, Akron is 54. So Miami's actually third. That's Miami, Florida. That makes sense. That's why they're not that high. Miami, Ohio is 51st in the net. So that is something that is probably too low to be considered to be an at-large. But I think margin of victory is something that they're going to have to run up here if they want to be considered as an at-large. But it's a super fun story, and check them out if you get the chance because it is pretty cool. Now, the other story that I want to get to here in mid-major land, Mike, is the team that's ranked 1 spot above them in the AP poll. It's the Billikens from St. Louis. If you remember Indiana State a couple of years ago, it's their coach and their best player, Josh Schertz, the team that went to the NIT championship game, and then he's got his big guy, Robbie Avila, there too. So they're 18-1, Mike. Are you buying the hype that St. Louis is a really good team, or have they? Is the A10 maybe a little weaker than we thought?
I mean, sure, the A10 is a little bit weaker, but you look at the
Yeah,
body of work and the schedule that Central or that St. Louis has had, it's definitely more impressive than the undefeated Miami of Ohio Redhawks, I think. And I don't think there's a question of that. Look, they did lose a tight game against Stanford.
and Stanford
That's
might be in the tournament as of today, though.
and that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. That's not that bad of a loss right now. They've only dropped them by 1 point. Since then, good year. Look, VCU is not the same team that they have been in the past, but they ran through VCU, dominated Richmond. They've looked good. They trampled St. Joseph's. So time will tell with them. Look, they've got Bonaventure coming up tomorrow. They've got Dayton coming up, Davidson coming up. VCU again, George Mason, who's had some good moments this year. So they're going to have time to pick up some wins. That George Mason St. Louis game is going to be a lot of fun. Two 18-1 squads, especially if they can both maintain their undefeated records going into that game. That game is going to have tournament implications on it because George Mason's also looking at an at-large bid.
yeah, they're probably in also right now. But if you look at the schedule here, Mike, for St. Louis, like at VCU, might be the hardest game in the Big Ten, other than George Mason. They've got that out of the way already. They won. They have a quad one win against Santa Clara. Like they've got two Q1 wins already. Like if you're looking at a team with, let's say, 29 to 30 wins after the A10 tournament, like that is going to be a team with a pretty strong resume. Like
Yeah.
yeah, the A10 is littered with these teams in like the low 100s and high, double digits here. Like Dayton's at 79, VCU 66, George Mason's a little lower, but they're better than 98th. They're 18-1 also for that matter. But like if you continually beat those teams at a pretty good rate, like their analytics are going to go up, and they're already at 25th right now, St. Louis. So I think the Pelicans are incredibly fun to watch, just like Miami, Ohio, but they're doing better against better competition. So I think St. Louis could probably aim at this point uh, for the home jerseys in the round of 64. I think it's really possible that they could be
Yeah.
an 8 seed or better, and it might come with the A10 being, George Mason and VCU and Dayton winning some games here and keeping, them up so that if they beat them, it's a good win. But St. Louis is really fun, and so is really the A10.
Yeah, no, the A10 is a lot of fun. And this year, I feel like specifically, we're seeing a lot of potential at-large bids for mid-major schools. We've listed a couple right there: Miami, George Mason. We talked about uh, St. Louis at length there. Another school that we need to look out for is Murray State down there. They're also playing in the Missouri Valley. They just had a tough loss. They lost to Drake yesterday. So we're talking about them a little less because they had that tough loss on the road. But look, if they can run the table the rest of the regular season in the Missouri Valley, there's no saying that they can't earn an at-large bid as well because the Valley has some good teams as well. Belmont's a really good one. They're also sitting at 17-3, and you never know if they were on the table, they could as well. That's going to be a really fun game. Murray State Belmont coming up at the end of the month. So that's just another school, and there's many more that are looking really good right now that we could be seeing in March.
Yeah, the Missouri Valley is like uh definitely like a 1.5 bid league right now. You've got four
Yeah,
teams in the top 100. You have only one team outside the top 200, which I think is pretty important. Um, that's the Purple Aces from Evansville. But you see the viewers can see the screen here, Mike. There's a lot of green on this page, which means pretty good things. You've got three teams at the top of the Missouri Valley who are pretty good, and we have to see. Like, of course, they do have to keep winning games, and ultimately, at this time of the year, more times than not, they probably do lose a few games and get sucked into only the conference tournament really mattering. But um, I think the age of like no upsets, especially last year, I have a feeling that might not be the case this time around. I think we're going to have some really strong, 10, 11, 12 seeds. Um,
yeah.
at least that's what the numbers are telling me. And the few that I've watched, I do think that we're going to see some upsets, even if it's just in the
Yeah.
first round.
Yeah, I mean, just a few others off the top of the head, like Liberty. Liberty's 8-0, 16-3 right now. They've won 10 straight. They're looking good. San Diego State, since getting into conference, they lost
Is
some tougher
Liberty Ohio
conference
Valley?
games.
No.
Liberty's Conference USA.
Conference USA. All right, yeah. So let me
Yeah.
just pull that up while you. But yeah, go ahead. 101 right
But
now, 16-3. Yeah, they have a chance.
yeah, you look at San Diego State as well. They're a team that since they've gotten into conference play, they've seemed to find another gear there, and they're looking a lot better. So if they start running the table in the Mountain West, I think they could be looking at a 9 or an 8 seed, depending on what the NCAA decides to do. UNC Wilmington, another good one. 17-3 right now,
They're
six
Big
one in the
South.
CAA Colonial.
Close. All
Yeah,
these all there's been a lot of changes in the few conferences that we've just said, Mike, but
so many.
yeah. But
Yeah,
like I'm going through the conferences here as you're saying. You've got a lot of teams in the high 100s to even top 100 here that are in these leagues. Like those are your 12 and 13 seeds
yeah,
who
those
and
are
those
good.
those are your bottom third of the Power 5 too. Like these teams are really good. UNC Wilmington is actually the third best team here according to the numbers, but of course that means that there's two good chances for wins out there. So
Yeah.
these conference tournaments right now, Mike, are going to be very interesting. We always preach to watch them, that weekend before the usual ones where, you have your power conference, final regular season games. These teams are going to be playing in semifinals and finals that weekend, and by the looks of it, it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited already. Let's get to March.
But yeah, Mike, we've got a couple of other things here. Oh yeah, let's go to the SEC. We've spent a decent amount of time talking SEC basketball this year. We've got Florida now well ahead of the rest of the pack here analytically. They, of course, did beat Vanderbilt last week. It's been 3 straight losses for the Commodores. They go 16-0, and then they sort of get blitzed by Texas, and they never really had a chance in that game. Then they lose to Florida at home, and then they get blitzed again by John Calipari in Arkansas. Obviously, it's sort of a tough run in the schedule here that may have come at the wrong time, but the bubbles burst with Vanderbilt. Where do you think that they're going to settle in?
Yeah, right now I think we're looking at about. I think at the end of the day, we're going to look at a 7 seed for Vanderbilt.
Okay, wow.
Could even fall down to an 8. I've been accused of putting distasteful door comments into the universe this past week, which led to them losing 3 straight. I don't think it's me. I just think that they're not what we thought they may have been going in. Look, they did have some impressive road victories. 31-point win over Wake Forest right before we got into conference play. But look, they got thrashed by Texas. Florida was kind of a choke job. They probably could have at least sent that game to play a few extra
They
minutes.
they may that might be a win against every other team in the league though.
Sure, yeah. Um, but then Arkansas, they
Yeah.
come right back on the road and they get crushed. And look, Florida's probably the hottest. They are the hottest team in the SEC, and they're looking like they're back in the driver's seat to win it. Um, and you look at the rest of the schedule, there's not really that many impressive schools on this. I think they play one more ranked team the rest of the way, and that's Georgia. Georgia's not that good. So if they lose, they lose a couple games to Tennessee. If they lose to Kentucky, if they can lose to Auburn or Ole Miss on the road, which I think is very, I'm not going to say likely, but a good chance of that, depending on how the rest of the season goes. Yeah, they're cruising for an 8 seed.
Wow. Well,
I'm going to say 7, but yeah, not great.
I mean, they do already have 4 quad 1 wins. Like, I think it would be hard for them to really crater that low. I think they have built up some equity, but I don't really like that their schedule coming forward, Mike. It's a lot of non-tournament teams on the road that are still good
Yeah,
enough that can be
a lot of ankle
Texas.
biters.
Like
Yeah.
Texas is not a team that's in the tournament right now, but they're 42nd in Torvik, so it's a quad 1 game, and obviously a team good enough to beat you. Like, they play Kentucky at home, Ole Miss on the road, Oklahoma at home. But this stretch here, it's 1, 2, 3. It's 6 straight quad 1 games, Mike, where one of them is a ranked team. and maybe that'll be different when they get there. But away at Auburn, home at Texas A&M, away at Missouri, home to Tennessee, home to Georgia, at Kentucky. There's a lot of losable games in there that don't really move the needle if you win them, if you know what I mean. So like if they
Yeah.
go through that stretch, that's 6 games at 3-3, like okay, it's three more quad one wins, but at the same time, like probably not all wins against the field. Not all these teams can make it from the SEC. Texas A&M's had a little bit of a resurgence, but the SEC is going to have a lot of teams on the bubble, and I do think, Mike, that like if they go 500 the rest of the way, like if they finish it 10-8, like that might be like good for them. Like
I mean,
they
it's
might they
great for
might they might
Vanderbilt
not be
typically.
they might not be capable of much better than that. I do think that
Yeah.
people especially did get too far ahead of their skis. We were a little bit skeptical if they were like SEC title threats. Now I think that they've got to hunker down and see if they can get some more quad one wins and hold on to a protected seed.
Yeah, right now they're sitting right on that edge of a 4 seed, right? We're seeing
Yeah.
them. I think Ken Palm, they're at 15 right
Yeah, let me
now.
pull up the
I don't know
matrix
what
real
they are in the
quick.
net or Torvik, but probably right around there. There isn't a ton of upside to their schedule, to your point. They're playing a lot of bubble teams in the SEC. That could be a lot of trip ups going forward. And look, if they have a blowout against Tennessee or Kentucky or A&M, one of these schools, I mean, that's going to tank their stock.
Yep.
So yeah, I 100% can see them falling down to a 7.
Yeah, so they're still a 3 seed right now on the matrix, but it does take a little bit of time to, get those brackets from a week ago out of the average. But if you scroll across their column here, Mike, of all the ones that were done yesterday on the 21st, you've got pretty much every single one has them at a 4 seed. You have one with a 2 and a couple threes and a 5. But it's pretty clear that they're a 4 seed now. And like we said, what's coming up for them, it, you know, I don't really want to compare them to anything, but they're going to have that resume on Selection Sunday where they have like a lot of quad one wins, but no like elite quad one wins.
Yep,
And
that
I
quad
think
1A.
it's going to be
Yeah.
hard to sort them. I think that's my read on this. They have, like I said, 4 quad one wins, but only one of them is quad 1A, and that is the home game. No, that is the road game against UCF. That is the quad
Yeah.
1A game right now. You've got St. Mary's, SMU, Wake, Alabama that are quad one, but yeah, Bama dropped to 17, which is not the top half of 25. So yeah, I think a lot of quad 1B wins. Obviously, great things to have, but if they have 8, 9, 10 losses after the SEC tournament, I could definitely see them getting like drastically dragged down, like you're insinuating here. Like one can argue that that's already happened. Like they were on the 2 line a week ago, and now they're holding on to a 4 seed, and it's gonna go. They're gonna have to play some good ball to hold it there,
Yeah.
which maybe that they are not capable of. But Mike, let's give some credit here to Arkansas because they did win this game 93-68. It was 9-11 at halftime, and then they win the second half by more than they do the first half. But what are your thoughts on Arkansas here? They're 14-5 overall, 4-2. They've had some great performances. They've had some kind of duds too.
Yeah.
Where do you think Arkansas and John Calipari are at?
I mean, it just seems like it's, being brutally honest, this seems like the same John Calipari mold of the last 5 years. They're going to win by scoring a lot of points, but they're going to lose ugly when they can't find a way to score 90 plus points in a game. We saw that earlier this year against Auburn, just like 12 days ago. They got thumped at Auburn. They lost by 22 points because they couldn't, they had an off night shooting. Similarly, on Saturday, they had a 14-point loss at Georgia because they couldn't get the ball in the hoop. And it just seems like Calipari teams of late just are not good defensive teams. We'll see what happens, but I think this is just another team in the SEC that's really inconsistent. Look, there's a chance. Hear me out. There is a chance that we get to the Elite Eight and we see three SEC schools there. right?
Or none.
And that's what I'm saying. It is these teams are so hot and cold that look, Arkansas, they could make a run. Tennessee could make a run, but right now they just can't seem to get out of their own way.
And
And so,
I have actually seen them in person this year, Mike. I did go to the Houston game that was at the Prudential
yep,
Center, and their offense is good. They've got a few good players, but they are not good defensively. I think that's like a
yeah,
point that cannot be made enough. Houston, Kelvin Sampson's Houston ran circles around them.
94 points. Yeah,
And it was because they were layups and open threes. So offensive column here on Torvik is all green. They've had a ton of great efforts. But Mike, they have not held one power conference opponent to less than 1 point per possession this year. They've only done it
yeah,
4 times, and only one of those opponents is in the top 150, and that is Fresno State. But they are not defending at and Vanderbilt was 68 points on 67 possessions. That was their second best game adjusted this year defensively. So obviously consistency comes with playing on both sides of the ball. It doesn't appear that they could do that yet.
yeah. And this has been Calipari's model for the last 5 years. Look, even back to his days at Kentucky, and we saw for the most part, with the exception of last year when they had a good run in the tournament, knocking off St. John's, it doesn't work out for Calipari teams in March.
But they weren't good
So
for a lot of the last year. They
yeah,
got some players back from injury and they went on a run and ultimately, had the upset win over St. John's. But this team should be better than that. They should be better than a team with 11 losses that's a 4 seed that has a bunch of good wins but a bunch of losses and will probably lose in the round of 32 when they don't make threes. Like we've seen this movie before.
many times recently.
And maybe they can get to a Sweet 16, but you really have to defend to make
Got to
it
defend in
in
March.
March. And to be
Yeah,
fair, you do have to score too, but
yeah.
you can't really have a weakness. You've got to be okay at the things that you're not good at, and that is not the case for Arkansas here, Mike. A real lull in their schedule. They go 4 straight games in the SEC that are not quad one. You got LSU at home, Oklahoma on the road, Kentucky at home, Mississippi State on the road. Kentucky's 39th. That obviously would have to get to 25 for that home Kentucky home game to be a quad one, but you've got 4 games here that are not quad one. You've honestly, you need to see something in those. Probably more than just 4 wins, honestly. You've got to see some style points and put these teams that you were better than away.
Yeah, I mean they're going to have a chance to get their style points coming down the stretch.
Yep.
They get to play Alabama. I think that's on the road.
Yep.
They're going to have to play A&M. They got Florida on the road. Missouri on the road is probably quad one, I would think.
63rd, so probably.
Yeah. So they're going to have their quad one chances, 100%. But to your point, Sean, it feels like these four they've got to put some swagger into these games and win by some good margins to feel comfortable about getting a potentially protected seat.
And they're gonna
Um,
win like half of these good games probably. They are 4-5 in quad one right now, 2-5 in quad one A, so that means 2-0 in quad one B. Like 40% win percentage, give or take, is pretty good in quad one, but
yeah,
like that's not the recipe for going on a run. So I think they probably beat one good team in the SEC tournament, then lose, and then they probably either lose in the round of 32 or the Sweet 16. But this is kind of the story for Arkansas. You watch them one night and you think that they're going to go to the Final Four, and then you watch them another night and you're like, wait, this isn't a bubble team. Like, come on.
yeah,
But John Calipari's going to have to figure it out. I kind of do like the roster that he's put together this year. He has his freshmen at the top of the line, as usual. Acuff, Malik Thomas. But he's also got some veterans in there, too. He's got DJ Wagner, who's played for him a couple years. He's got Trayvon Brazil, who's been around. He got Malik Ewan from Florida State, was kind of like, all right, come and be our backup big. He is an awesome player. He single-handedly kept them in that Houston game. He gets to the line a ton. His motor is great. Like, Carter Knox. They still have Billy Richmond. Like they have like a roster that should win.
Yeah.
But that is
It's
where that they're at, and they're going to be in the mush of it in the SEC. Mike, they're the last 5 seed right now on the Matrix. Recently, it looks like there's a couple 6s in there, but it's pretty much all 5s. So they're a 5 seed. Yeah, that Miami, Ohio versus Arkansas in the first round.
that could be a fun one.
Yeah,
Oh,
Miami,
get your
Ohio is
popcorn ready.
probably going to be better than 12 seed, but
110 to 106, maybe. I don't
yeah.
know.
Let's see. So on the 12 seeds right now on the Matrix, we've got your Murray State Racers, we've got McNeese, we've got Yale, and we've got Florida Atlantic. How about that? Any of those teams could beat Arkansas. Any of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that was another team, Florida Atlantic. We didn't
Yeah.
mention them. There's some gamers down there in Boca Raton.
Let me pull up the American real quick. The American is a different league than it's been the last few years, Mike. It's been Memphis, and after Houston left and after FAU went to the Final Four, it's been Memphis and the Misfits. That's not the
Yeah.
case this year. Memphis is not having a good year. They're 9-9. They're 89th here in Torvik. That's 4th place in the American. You've got Tulsa, South Florida, and FAU above them. I don't know if we have a multi-bid league here, Mike, but there's a chance. And then, like, there's 3 to 4 like really solid teams in this league, but John Jacobs and FAU might be the best.
They are, and they had a really good win against Temple on Sunday. A game that was a little bit sloppy, but Florida Atlantic was dominant coming down the stretch. Then they got another good win against Tulane yesterday. So right now, look, the Owls just keep getting wins. And if they're going to be able to get an at-large or get a good seed in the tournament, they're going to have to take care of more road games. They've got a road game at South Florida over the weekend, and then late next week they go play Memphis on the road. That's a really big one for them,
Yeah,
Sean. That's a really big one.
those might be their not might. Those are their 2 toughest games left. South Florida is
Yeah.
quad 1. Memphis isn't right now. Could become one, but yeah, the at large it at 14-6. That's assuming a 7th loss. That would probably be too much at this point. They are minus 1.9 in WAB, which is this column right here that I'm got the cursor on. That is wins above bubble, and that is something that we saw the committee use for the first time last year. And basically, you could see like what a win would do here. Like the South Florida game on the road, Mike, is a .55 win against the bubble. So that means that 45% of bubble teams would win that game. Then Memphis is .47, and then after that, it's not a lot. So WAB, I think you needed to get to like 1 plus 1 WAB last year to make it. But that is something to look out for when you're looking at these mid-major conferences. Do they have some at-large teams? That is a measurement that they used pretty strictly last year around the bubble. And with it only being year 2 of the WAB, you'd have to think that it would go pretty similarly to year 1. So if FAU wins these 2 road games, Mike, I think we're talking about maybe an at-large consideration, but I think they might need both of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think they need both. They have to have both.
And then things get a little easier, and then the American tournament is still in Fort Worth.
I think it hops around usually now.
Yeah, no, I think it does. That's why I sort of stopped myself there. But
Yeah, Charlotte this year.
okay, so that's I'm seeing
Oh,
Birmingham,
maybe.
Alabama.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's Birmingham according
it's
to
Birmingham. Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's not. I put ACC in accidentally.
Okay, so
It
yeah, that
happens.
that makes a little bit more sense that that's in North
Yeah,
Carolina. But yeah, so American they've got some Sunday games on ESPN too. You know, these are like the A10 has a Friday, the MAC has a Friday slot, the MAC that and the MAAC also has a Friday slot on
yeah.
ESPNU, but these are the sorts of teams that you're going to turn on the TV and be like, "Wait, who are they?" Oh yeah, that's the team that Dusty May took to the Final Four. Turns out that they're actually still pretty good. And John
They are.
Jacobs, your
Great
former
hire.
your former assistant there, is
Great hire.
he's doing a decent job. Like he had a solid roster last year. He scheduled like incredibly difficult in the non-conference, and you know they were an above average team in the American. They scheduled really tough again for their level. Now, like no power conference team would want to play a team like Florida Atlantic. They just won't.
Yeah.
And we've seen it over the years with some of the better mid majors. Like Yale has had a couple of games, but they want more. And North Texas, I think, when
Yeah, McCaslin.
Hodge, when McCaslin and Hodge were there, they were having trouble. But they played one. Florida Atlantic played one power conference team, two power conference. No, sorry, three. They beat Boston College. They lose to St. Mary's, if you want to call that a
Yeah.
power conference. UCF on a neutral. Like their losses are to okay teams where
Yeah. I mean, Boston College isn't really
yeah,
Power Five, but
but
sure.
they beat them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Liberty's a good team. Like all these teams are good that they've lost to. So maybe if they can win some, they can get um, back into a little bit. Like a couple weeks ago, Mike, they were -3 WAB. They've already got a WAB back, whatever
Yeah.
that means. So if they can keep that going, maybe we can watch out for the Owls down there at the Baldwin Arena, I believe it's called.
Yeah. It's a fun place too. They pack it out every single
Yeah.
game. I think they've had a sellout every single game so far at home this year. Fun place to watch a game.
All right, Mike. Well, we've got a couple of other storylines that we're going to hit here. Let's go to the Big East. It's time to talk about Rick Pitino and St. John's again. We asked them to show us something on their West Coast or that Midwest trip to when they played Creighton Butler. They won both of those, and they have compiled that with some more impressive performances. All of a sudden, Mike, St. John's is 14-5, 7-1 in the Big East. They take care of Creighton at home or Marquette at home as we expected, but they go on the road and beat Villanova, and then they come from behind and beat Seton Hall at home. What a difference a month can make for St. John's.
Yeah, now we're starting to get kind of in the rotation of things. They're back in the saddle. Look, two double-digit victories in their Midwest swing before heading home, getting a couple home wins. Seton Hall's a big one. Seton Hall kind of seems like they're kind of coming apart at the seams right now.
Seton Hall was up
They've
by 12 with like 8 minutes
yeah,
left.
three straight losses now for the Pirates. They were looking so good just a couple weeks ago. We thought they could even squeak out a win against UConn, but they fell in that one, and then a tough loss at
Butler.
home against Butler. That was a bad one. They were trailing the entire way. Um, St. John's finds a way to get a win here at the Garden. So look, they look like they're back. And this could be a team that could compete for, I don't want to say anything better than a 5 seed right now, but if they run the table here, they could compete for a 4. I could see it.
Yeah, it really depends. Their way to that is just a lot of wins. Like maybe you
Yeah.
get one of the Yukon games and then you just beat everybody else and you go to the, you know, committee with like 7 or 8 losses. And you're like, wait, this team won a lot of games. Like, yeah, some of these haven't aged well, but at Villanova might be the second or third best win you can get in the Big East this year. You beat Seton Hall at home. You have quad one wins. You like yeah, the Providence game at home might not help you, but you have a couple quad one A losses. They figured it out. Mike, I watched a part of every game here except for the Marquette game, which they won by quite a bit. So you'd think that one went well too, but they're the Patino style look is back. Like they're playing hard, they're full court pressing, they're pushing the ball in transition, they're taking it at the rim, and like that they're not going to go 13 of 40 from three. They're just not. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
take it inside. They've not shot the three well these last three games. Like 5 of 19, 5 of 15, 2 of 12. Like not a lot of teams will win games that way, but Pitino always has. Defensively, they've gotten a little bit better here since that game where Georgetown scored 83 points on 70 possessions. But they have 3 more games before they host Connecticut, Mike, on Friday night, February 6th. If they can get to that game without another loss, I think that one's going to be
They're going to
the
be in good
best
shape.
that the Big East can offer this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, UConn, I think we all know they're kind of running away with this thing in the Big East. And right now, we're just looking to see if we can piece together 3 or 4 teams to actually make the big dance here. Look, we've said Seton Hall's really fallen off the pace here in the Big East. Is anybody going to be able to pick up the torch and follow? We'll see. But once again, looking like a pretty lackluster season for the Big East.
Yeah, it's a 3.5 bid league to me right now. I think St. John's, Villanova, and UConn are in pretty good spots, and I think it's Seton Hall. They're probably still in right now. They still have some a good resume, but offensively, Mike, I don't know if like they can consistently win against the teams below them with Seton Hall. Like, yeah, Butler's not great, but they're pretty physical inside, and then they made a few outside shots. Like, it makes sense why the Butler beat them, and then you sandwich that with the two best teams in the league. All of a sudden, 3 losses in a row, and they don't.
Yeah.
They're not good enough offensively where they could lose to anybody in this league, and
Yeah.
their defense is good enough where they could beat anybody. But if you're talking about Seton Hall having to win, you know, 12 to 13 games against the teams below them, like chances are that they drop a few.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, we're going to see what happens here in the Big East, but I think there's a real chance that Seton Hall is left to try to get back into the NIT or the Crown maybe this time. But they're going to have to run the table and beat the bottom half of this conference that is as lackluster as it gets.
And they are in, like, they have one quad one win right now. It's that North Carolina State opening game of Maui. Like, they need to just get a lot of wins. Like, stay away from double digit losses. Go to the Big East tournament with 7 or 8 losses, and I think you'll be in a good spot. But at DePaul, home to Xavier, home to Marquette, they need to get those 3 before they
Yeah,
go
they need to go 3 for 3.
before they go on a quad one road trip of Nova and Creighton. You could probably, go 1 for 2 there and be in a good spot. But they still have all of the teams at the top of the league on the road, Mike. Villanova on the road, Creighton on the road, Butler on the road, Connecticut on the road. They just got the
Yeah.
St. John's road game out of the way. But they're going to have to do it. This is a resume to me that can be picked apart if it comes to it. They're right at
Yeah,
1.0 WAB. Like, this seems bubbly to me.
it's real bubbly. And look, I don't think it's out of the question that Seton Hall is got their bags packed. And if they don't win these next 3 games, like I they're not in the tournament for sure. They're gonna have a chance to get in and win their way back in, but they've got to win all 3 of these in order to really feel like, yeah, this is a tournament team.
Yeah, if they win all 3, they're 17-5 with no losses outside of the top 2 quads. Like, I think that it'll be hard to leave them out if they have
Sure.
like 23, if they're like 23-8, or that's not counting the Big East tournament games, but let's say they're like 25-9. That's really going to be hard to keep them out.
Yeah,
But
but at the same time, if they're 16-6,
yeah,
with either a loss to at home to Marquette, which is probably quad 3,
that
um,
is quad 3. Yeah,
and then Xavier at home is quad 2,
I believe that's
DePaul on
quad 3 also, Mike. They're 88th. Top 75 is quad 2 at home.
there you
So
go. So now we're talking about 2 and DePaul on the road. That's not going to be quad 3. That's probably quad 2.
yeah, 111
Um,
road. I believe it's 75 to 125 is quad 2 on the road. Yeah.
yeah. So look, if they lose a quad 2 or quad 3 game in the next 3, like at 16-6, that's a whole different ball game. Whole different ball game.
Yeah. So they need to get the train back on the tracks here. I think they will. I think they're like, DePaul is not physical at all. I think they can go in there and win. And then Xavier and Marquette they already sort of stole one against Marquette this year where they played terrible and still won. So I think they should be able to win that one too. Xavier and Richard Pitino have been very up and down this year. At the beginning of the year, they looked like they might be the worst team in Power Five, honestly. They
Yeah.
got blitzed
Sure.
by Santa Clara. They lost by a billion to Iowa. They lost to Georgia. Now, it turns out those 3 teams are pretty good. So at this time, we're going to cut them some slack. But then they lose
Yeah.
at home to 98 to
You talking about
57.
that Creighton game. Phew,
You're
that
like,
was
wait,
embarrassing.
they're 8-4. What is going on here? They've steadied the ship a little bit here. Look, they're not a good team, Xavier, but they're not the worst team in the Big East anymore. They went to Creighton and lost on a buzzer beater, the same team that went onto their court and took their soul. That just shows how much better they are since that game happened, in just over a month, really. But like I think that's a Xavier coming to New Jersey. That's one to look out for me. That might be an upset over Seton Hall, but Big
Yeah.
East is a mess. Seton Hall is right where we grew up, Mike. I really wish that they could make the tournament.
Yeah, I
They
agree.
they are, I think, with the sole exception of DePaul, they might be the worst job in the Power Five in terms of facilities and resources and NIL. It is a hard job, and Shaheen Holloway is doing a great job there. And I hope he can, steady the ship a little bit here and get him to the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a small market school. Arguably the smallest market in Power Four. I think you can make
Now,
the case
yeah,
for that.
now that Washington
Um,
State is not in the power, yeah, I think it
yeah,
is. Yeah.
yeah. Um, I think you can make that argument, and it's fun. Look, Kevin Willard did an outstanding job in his time at Seton Hall. That's why he was rewarded with a job at Maryland and now at Villanova. Um, But yeah, it is kind of cool for college basketball to see Seton Hall doing, alive and well and playing good basketball. We're both cheering for them and hoping to see their sustained success here in the Big East.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, Mike, but it's probably the team that I've seen the most over the years. You know, Prudential
Yeah,
Center, it's a NHL, formerly NBA arena. Like they have a lot of seats in there. Like you said, it's a small
good
private
arena.
school. It's a good
Yeah,
arena, but the tickets aren't that expensive.
yeah,
We can go. I've probably been to 20 or so games in my life, and it's fun when that fan base is going. But yeah, let's hope that Seton Hall can get into the tournament and shake off what was just a unfortunate year last year for them. But Mike,
yeah.
we're going to wrap it up here a little longer than we were expecting, but a lot of headlines in the sport. So, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.